interesting that Melinda is talking about conclusions, and one of the things I was going to explain is that for me, poetry is a way of connecting, a way of asking for an answer. I often say I don't write the end of the poem. I write the beginning because I'm trying to figure something out. And through that process, I connect. And when I do that connection, it's something else that writes and comes through me. Some poems, I mean, I'm driving in a car and I have to stop. I'm talking to somebody in an elevator and I really want them to go away because I'm not paying attention, because in my head is this poem going da-da-da-da-da. So, and some of those things I think were because I needed to hear something. So for me, a lot of times when I'm connected and I'm writing, it's actually an act of listening. And I was explaining to Tim, I have an engineering degree. I didn't have poetry in my life until I had my parents both come ill to my house, and I got to the point of nervous breakdown. So I took off time from work and went to Boulder. And Boulder is this unusual place like Maui where art has value. And I fell in love with poetry and learned from other people's poems, and then learned that I could listen to poems. So the first poem I'm going to read is...
Would you hold your book up so people can see it and tell them the title, please?
It's called Along the Journey, and I'll actually read that poem to you. It's self-published. This is the one my friend helped me do for a while, which was totally self-published. This is through a publishing company. You can get it on Amazon. And I brought one of these. I figured out how to use Canvas in a computer. This drawing is done by an art friend of mine. She's a very incredible artist. I don't think the painting really, the printing really does her justice.
Very nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to show you on the subject of books. After 9/11, my daughter and I were moved enough that we actually put together a book, which is a compilation of a lot of poets. Many of them lived near us. I found it when I was going through all these things, trying to dig up stuff. One other thing I want to say is, you know, Wide has really pushed me to read my own poetry. I can recite Rumi. I can recite all kinds of poems that I've just fallen in love with. But this time I thought, no, Wide's right. I'm going to go through my own poems. And it was such a lesson, because I left messages for the me that's now, the one that forgot that I need to write. And because I had to read the whole book, I found those messages again. A listening. If you step aside, a poem is a listening. To the you who claims no shape, to the you who accepts no label, to the only you there is, the one who holds within all the knowing of you that will ever be, the only voice worth listening to. Doesn't, in fact, being an engineer and being a poet in itself, you could just imagine how well it goes over in the engineering world. Like one time I said something like, it would behoove you to do this, and the guy goes, behoove? I said, it's English, look it up. But, you know, it's just not the kind of words engineers use. And on the other hand, all my poet friends think, you know, she's so techie. This is called Visitor from the Other World. Sometimes I look around a room totally aware that I'm so different than everyone else there. I decide I'm just a visitor from some foreign place and wish I could remember a friend's name or a lover's face. I walk among them so obviously apart, acting from my soul, speaking from my heart. I search their faces and soulless eyes. They watch me concerned. They don't want to go where I have been or know what I have learned. Each time I try to fit their mold, my soul retreats and ego takes hold. Whatever faraway place claims my soul, wherever my spirit must go. It's all out of my control. It's a commitment made long ago.
What's that one called?
Visitor from Another World.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes, not often, I give myself assignments. As I said before, mostly I just sort of write poems because they happen. In fact, they demand attention. But this one, I gave myself the assignment of a self-portrait. I think I was actually invited to go talk to about poetry to people in the Air Force. And I thought maybe a little introduction, but I think I didn't get it done, which is probably really good. I hide my dirty socks in drawers, not for neatness, but to protect them from my creative cat, who finds them adequate prey and then leaves them wholly unusable. Bought a bed big enough for 3 in the hope that I might have enough room, yet awake, still statued, book-ended between 2 cats, or find one buried under my face, or pillow, or one of their appendages, or worse, laying on my face. I take on much more than I can handle, accomplish most of it, and wish to feel less guilty about the remainder. Avoid paperwork with a desperation implying a psychosis. I envy but do not emulate naturally neat people. My intensity intrigues, informs, inspires, and intimidates. I practice random acts of kindness all 52 weeks. My primary possessions are books. I spent 21 years in Vermont, learning to love the earth and cry for how we treat her. Prefer change to routine and safety. Believe fear is the root of all evil. I ride motorcycles, have skied some of the steepest, and learned to fly airplanes, all to prove to myself that I was not afraid of the simple things that truly terrified me. My internal observer seems constantly amused, sometimes to the point of frequent fits of laughter, assuring me what matters is not what concerns me. Lately, I laugh along with her. I've been doing email since the 80s, await in awe at how long it has taken the rest of humanity to entertain the idea of a paperless, efficient, and treed world. I have a daughter I love and respect, see her ex-husband as a friend, and welcome her new partner with joy. I play pretend Harry Potter with her daughter, delighting in the fun and the chance to be Hagrid and owls and wizards and warriors. I am most at ease among trees and animals, and often seem to analyze human behavior in a way that implies I belong to another species. Knowing human advantage is the ability to learn from our mistakes, I wonder at our determination to repeat as many as possible. Refuse most food is inevitable, and am amazed at how Americans eat genetic, engineered, polluted food and mad cow meat, obviously accepting their government knows best. I have problems calling the president, that would have been Bush. So. The older I get, the less able I am to relate to time, and the more suspicious I am that it is a mere human contrivance. After realizing the rumors of the 60s announcing God's death were greatly exaggerated, I resumed prayer. But I do not pray for blessings. I pray to bless. I believe, as Rumi said, that each being has a unique and secret way of being with a mystery, and none should be judged. Have built my way from fragments discovered amongst the shards of ancient practices, sit silently, whirl in dervish prayer, worship in song and circle, and move within mysteries. I gather frequently with loving friends, yet never write to friends I love and miss. I changed my name to reclaim the pride my family lost to prejudice. I have lived on my own terms whenever I was enough aware of who I was to know what they were. I believe you should love your job or leave, and I've left more jobs than most have held, and 2 marriages. I love Paris and Ireland. I might live there if it were not for family here. I love language with a passion that consumes. I recite Rumi as if I wrote it, memorize poems as the Irish memorize their stories, sculpt my visions in clay. I love to fool with words, write and recite poetry in the hope that it will breathe new life into at least one listener. that someone may realize the power of poetry to look within, to save their soul, suffer their pains, rejoice their joys, and hold on to the part of them they most need, and help those aware, awake, and alive to hold on to the part of themselves that runs from this civilized world, selling delusion, derision, and downright depression as a way of life. I believe in magic. And as an ex-lover once most correctly complained, I am in love with love. But I did it because, as Melinda said, I bounce in and out because I travel for work. And I thought it would be sort of like an introduction. When I was pretty young, when I had my daughter, so I have this poem, Growing Up Together. I talked to my child when I was little more than a child. I did not have the answers, only questions and a child to guide. I was living in my mistakes, but wanted her to live in her truth, so I shared adult questions and shared adult thoughts. Don't love like me. Love someone worthy of you. Who is God? She certainly doesn't live there. You are special. Don't ever let anyone tell you different. The dead aren't in graveyards. The truth is inside. Life, love, and freedom are worth living for. Be free. I listened to my child and learned innocence, freedom, and righteous indignation. Friends ask if my grown daughter is like me. She has no need to be like me. When parents refuse to grow through their lessons, they enroll their children in the same schools to study the same courses they failed. We give our children the gifts of our growth. We hold them back with our fear of change. I hadn't grown yet, so I took her to school with me. As a family, we took this trip to Port Townsend in Washington, and there was one of those stores I like, you know, with the candles and the windows and the bells and things. And so I came out with these two posters, and one of them was about my birth date. Raven woman of the butterfly clan. Yes, yes, they nodded their heads, smiled, and agreed when Raven's moon was red. That's you, beyond a doubt. The trickster, the negotiator, jumping about, flying from one to the other extreme, searching in recursive routine, searching for the balance of darkness and light, for the balance between walking and flight, between left and right. And there in the wisdom of long, long ago lay the key to it all. Stand 1 foot on each side and stop trying to fall. There's obviously a strong Irish connection that Melinda was talking about, and I wanted to read, here it is. I don't know if you know much about the Irish history. I think that some of us who are of Irish heritage, it's still, in many ways, just born within us. It's like genetic.
It's a little louder, sure.
Sure. And so this is a contemporary Irish poet. The potato famine wasn't really a lack of crop. It was a genocide. And this is a story about what happened during that time period. That the science of cartography is limited. And not simply by the fact that this shading of forest cannot show the fragrance of balsam, the gloom of cypress, is what I wish to prove. When you and I were first in love, we drove to the borders of Connaught and entered a wood there. Look down, you said. This was once a famine road. I looked down at ivy and scotch grass, rough cast stone had disappeared into, as you told me in the second winter of their ordeal, in 1847, when the crop had failed twice, relief committees gave the starving Irish such roads to build. When they died, their road ended, and still. And when I take down the map of this island, it is never so I can say, here is the masterful, the apt rendering of the spherical as flat, nor the ingenious design which persuades a curve into a plane. but to tell myself again that the line which says woodland and cries hunger and gives out among sweet pine and cypress and finds no horizon, that line will not be there. That's in Bowling from it's Dublin, I think she comes from. So there are influences of my poetry. The person on the back from Poets West spoke about Rumi's influence, and I don't know if you know, but the first recorded poem, according to my understanding, is the Irish poem. It's written by a Vergan. It's when the Celts first arrived in Ireland, and it's an I am poem. But I'm sure those of you who've been doing poetry have either written an I am poem or heard one. I really wanted to write one, but you know, like I said, it wasn't something I could actually demand. What I wrote at first when I was trying to write an I am poem, I just woke up one day and wrote this. We are. I think that we are God, trying on flesh and failing, and trying again and growing, and coming back and doing it all again. This out-of-control experiment cannot be abandoned. Surely its light outweighs its darkness, and its hope is so intoxicating. And I did finally write this I am poem just before 9/11 on a tiny little piece of paper in my car and didn't find it for months. In Ireland, the peregrine falcon is the symbol of freedom, like the eagle is to us. I am the small free bird who almost died and now nest in tall city buildings, grasping for space in our world. I am the salmon of wisdom who swam the 7 rivers and is now slipping from our world. I am the bird song no longer heard on this earth, the wolf who mates for life, and the whale who sings across the breath of our oceans. And so are you. When these beings are gone from this world, I too will be gone, and so will you. This was Robert Bly's favorite poem out of the book, so I'll read it for him. I was in Paris and I'd just been in Ireland, and I was riding a bicycle. Missing Paris. Notre Dame on a bicycle, hair curled wild by the Irish Sea, streets surging energy, statues moving, people eyeing, excitement everywhere and echoing through me. I stopped obligingly for a requested photo, suddenly and surprisingly shy. His photo could not catch what he saw in me or felt in himself. I wondered if he knew it was reflected in his own eyes. I wondered if I should say, "Voudrez-vous prendre du café avec moi?" Not a word. I wrote away, but sometimes I remember Paris and his eyes. Okay. And I'm going to, the book is broken in sections, and I want to make sure I get to this last section. The last section is on prayer. I have to find it in here. This is a Rumi. In the snow you are more beautiful, and the rain brings me closer to your lips. The inner secret, that's what you are. And I am with you now. I can't explain the comings or the goings. You arrive suddenly and I'm nowhere again. Inside the majesty. And I was reading John O'Donohue and a lot of other people talking about prayer, but I had given it up long, long ago, but I had just read a John O'Donohue about praying and being grateful for the women in places that had prayed because it blessed the earth. May all that is holy bless all the earth. May all humankind know their full worth. May the light and the truth be known to us all, so our self-made prisons can crumble and fall. May earth's energies weave through our souls, so our love and compassion can heal the world whole.
Good.
I'm going to leave you with just the blessing that's in the back of the book. May these words I've shared with you bless your day. May they open your eyes to the world before you, and may they open your spirit to the soul within.
It's